All right, good afternoon, traders. Today is May 22nd, 2025. My name is John Carignan. I am the lead instructor here at BYOB Trading in the BYOB Trading Room. Let's take a look at some charts today. Let's see how I made 10K. So, what did I do today? I traded some 0 DTE calls, and what did we make here today? Made on the little uptrends, made 1243 on some 605 8 DTE calls. On the downtrend, I made 3,262 on the 8 DTE 580 puts. On some coin, I made on some 250 puts. 1 DTE made 3,090 on some coin calls. On the 277.50 calls, 1 DTE made $60 on those, and made 20K on the 588 0 DTE calls for price to come visit the breakdown candle high. All right, so that's what we did today. Let's take a look at some charts, and we can look at where I got in on a lot of this stuff. So let's take first the 605 calls. Okay, I bought some right here, 500 at 32, sold them into the rallies. You can see in the dips, I'm buying the dips and selling them into the rallies right through here. You can see where I'm buying them. Bought 500. Bought 10, 20, 30, maybe another 100. So there's the SPY calls. That was the 605 calls. And the puts, buying the puts into the peaks right here and selling the drops right there. So selling those drops into that, and made again 3,262 on those. Here's the coin. Bought some puts, sold them for up there right around 29 cents. And the calls, bought some calls here, and just kind of averaged down and got out. I didn't see this coming at all. It didn't appear like anything was happening. I was looking at these descending wicks, and I got to tell you, it did not look like it was going to blast up like that. So that's what happened with those coin calls. And then the 0 DTEs, I just bought the dips and sold into the rallies as price headed up towards that breakdown candle high right up there. You can see we didn't even get to it, the breakdown candle high. We got a sharp pullback before we got there. All right, let's take a look at SPY on the 10-minute. 10-minute got a downtrend, 2-hour downtrend because you got the 3 underneath the 8. 10-minute downtrend, 2-hour, still in a downtrend. Daily chart, still in an uptrend. Got a higher low and a higher high. A lower low and a lower high. Closing under bullish trap over the rising 17. Okay, so there's on the daily chart. Let's take a look at it on the scratch. You can see price action here. Still up in Still up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish. Still in an uptrend, making higher lows and higher highs over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Still bullish up there. Okay, not SPY on the daily chart. Bullish up there in quadrant 4, up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. So that's SPY. QQQ. Up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. You got a lower high and a lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the rising 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's the pink line, over the uptrend line. Up there in quadrant 4, that's bullish, making higher lows and higher highs. That's bullish. It's in a bull flag right now. That's QQQ. FNGB. All right, FNGB is in the upper third. That's bullish. Price action is lower high, lower low, closing inside the bullish trap, almost over the bullish trap, over the 17 EMA, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the uptrend line. Price action is bullish and in an uptrend, higher low, higher high. Let's take a look at Diamond Dow. Diamond Dow is lower high, lower low, not in the upper third. That's just neutral. Okay, underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's the pink line. Over the uptrend line and over the downtrend line. So price action's over the 17 EMA, closing underneath a bearish cross right here, but over the 17, underneath that all-time high anchored VWAP. It's neutral and in an uptrend, higher low, higher high. Couldn't quite hold on to that range up there over the all-time high anchored VWAP. IWM. All right, IWM's got a lower high and a lower low, closing underneath a bearish trap, but over the rising 17, closing underneath the uptrend line, closing underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, closing underneath the midpoint. IWM is neutral and in an uptrend right here. Okay, take a look at our technicals. T21.22. We spent our day jumping out of the oversold zone. Wound up spending some time putting in a lower high and a higher low inside the sell zone, putting in a higher high and a higher low inside the seller's chop zone, then put in a higher high and possibly a lower low inside the seller's chop zone and the sell zone there. So a little bit of profit taking going on right now. Here's the T21.23 15-minute chart, still up over this 200 SMA. You got a bearish gap down that was not filled by the bulls. Not a good sign at all for the bulls, showing some weakness on their part. All right, price action you can see selling from the get-go. All right, and then you can see maybe a little bit of buying or more profit taking right here underneath after in the afternoon hours, and then a sell-off into the day. Looking to me like that's a bear flag. It's coming down to get this 200 SMA. That's what it looks like to me. All right, price action. Yeah, I just did. T21.22 right there. All right, and there's T21.23. T21.23, 3 bars, still green. 3 more green candle bars up over this 200 SMA. Again, it's the same product as the 15-minute chart. It's the same pattern right there. 15-minute charts in an uptrend. 3-bar chart in an uptrend. Price action approaching these 2 prior all-time highs. Both the 15 and the 3-bar are over the 200 SMA. That's nice work there. They're moving up. They're holding that higher ground. That's a bullish environment whenever they do that. Although on the 15-minute, you can see clearly that they gap down and they never filled gap. That's not a bullish environment. That would be a bearish environment. Consolidation under prior consolidation is bearish. But you back out, you look at this from a bigger perspective, that is a big bull flag. Price moves up the flagpole and then over to the right in that flag there. So there we are with T21.23. FNGB right here, still holding that higher ground. Okay, on the other side of that fading, rising 200 SMA, closing underneath it at the end of day. Not filling any bearish gaps. Got one here, got one here. Not filling them. Still up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Still up over the uptrend line. So moving up and over to the right. So holding that higher ground. Nobody wants to sell anything inside FNGB. Let's take a look at a few sectors. Start off with a daily chart. And we'll look at XLE. All right, XLE is bearish because it's in the lower third. XLE lower high, lower low, closing under a bearish trap underneath the 17, underneath the uptrend line right here. XLE still in an uptrend. If they take out this low, they'll negate the uptrend and convert to downtrend. Still underneath downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2, and the all-time high anchored VWAP. Stuck here in the lower third, that's bearish. Let's take a look at USO. This is US oil fund. Price action, lower high, lower low. Closing underneath a bearish cross, underneath the 17 EMA. Price action in the lower third, that's bearish. Still in a downtrend, has not made a higher high. Price action underneath this 3-year high anchored VWAP, underneath the midpoint, and still in a downtrend. Nothing bullish happening in USO. UNG. UNG got a lower high and a lower low, closing underneath a bearish trap, underneath a falling 17, underneath a downtrend line, underneath an all-time high anchored VWAP, underneath the midpoint, darn near close to being in the lower third. I'm going to just give it to them. I'm going to call it neutral. They get any lower than that, I'm going to have to call it bearish. All right, downtrend, neutral, UNG, nothing positive really going on there. They're just struggling with what's going on. The only thing positive is they haven't made a lower low yet, and it looks like they're out to get one. Let's take a look at GLD, gold. Gold for today got a lower high, lower low, closing inside over a bullish trap, over the 17, under the all-time high anchored VWAP. Back way out here, you can see gold up in quadrant 4. That's bullish. It's in a downtrend because they made a lower low. Here's a low. There's a lower low. So they're in a downtrend, lower high, lower low, downtrend. But they're up here in quadrant 4. That is bullish. They're up over the uptrend line. They're consolidating in a big sloppy bull flag. We'll see where they want to go. Hanging out up here in quadrant 4 doesn't bother me at all. They can hang out there for the rest of the year. Like to see that happen. I doubt it though. There's GLD. All right, let's take a look at SLV. Gold, silver right here, lower high, lower low, closing inside a bullish trap over the 17 in an uptrend because they made a higher high. There's a high, made a higher high over the downtrend line up here in quadrant 4. That's bullish, uptrend, bullish in and up there in the bullish territory and in an uptrend over this 12-year high anchored VWAP. So silver getting it done, holding that higher ground. We like to see that. Okay, so no longer in a downtrend, silver's in an uptrend. Let's take a look at SMH. SMH is a lower high, 240.32, 240.02. Inside day, higher high, lower low, closing under a bullish trap over the rising 17, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, over the downtrend line. Not quite in the upper third. I'm going to call it neutral. All right, neutral, and in an uptrend, making higher lows, higher highs, holding that higher ground up over the all-time high anchored VWAP right there. Nice work, SMH. XLK, big brother to SMH. Inside day, closing under the bullish trap over the rising 17, over the uptrend line, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, up here in quadrant 4. It's in an uptrend, got a higher low and a higher high. And we're up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish. Let's take a look at XLF. XLF up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish, over the all-time high anchored VWAP, also bullish. Today's price action, lower high, lower low, closing underneath a bearish trap, but over the 17 EMA. Up here in quadrant 4, that's bullish and in an uptrend. Let's take a look at IYT. Transports, lower high, lower low, closing underneath a bearish trap. Neutral on transports, not in the upper third, not in the lower third. So just neutral right here. Closing underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP, that's a pink line. Closing underneath the bearish trap. Closing over the rising 17. On the bullish side of neutrality here, here's the midpoint, midfield, mid-court. So price action is in an uptrend, but just neutral through here. All right, any other questions for today? If there's no questions, I'll wrap this up. We'll hand it off to those people out there in Cyberland. Roger wants to take a look at Tesla. All right, Tesla made a higher low right there. There's a high. Tesla made a higher high. Okay, so that's an uptrend. You're consolidating in a bull flag. All right, you closed over the bullish trap, over the rising 17. Tesla's looking good. That's bullish right there. You got resistance. See the top of that wick? Top of that wick. Top of that hump right there. So you got resistance right through here. Okay. See those tails come down? So all of this area right through here, okay, it's all resistance. Okay, so it'll probably create, you can see, hence you got a grinder box trying to grind out overhead supply right here. Once they get on top of that, should be smooth sailing to go visit this breakdown candle high, this breakdown candle high, and that all-time high up there. Okay, so Tesla is bullish, hanging out in the bull flag right now. Probably going to take a little while to grind through a lot of this overhead supply up there. All right, that's where resistance is. Maybe if it gets on top of this, that'll be great. It's got to get up there and hold for 5 days. All-time high anchored VWAP. Here's one on the low for 2025. We'll call this the high for 2025. So you're up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. That's huge right there. Consolidating for 5 days straight. On the 5th day, notice you tried to do the breakout. See, the breakout usually comes on the 5th day after consolidating over the all-time high. You got a you got a failed breakout, but you're still hanging on to the flag. So that's good news. All right? Just watch it. Don't get caught in a meltdown where it just slowly makes lower highs after lower high after lower high. Okay? You want it up here grinding on this overhead supply. Okay? Don't let it drift all the way down on you. Don't know what it's going to do, but that is bullish up there. Like to see it jump up and start consolidating over prior consolidation and start grinding out some of this overhead supply right here. Right there. As long as you're over this all-time high anchored VWAP, I think you're a winner. All right, Roger? See that? That all-time high anchored VWAP? As long as you stay on top of that, I think you're a winner here. Okay, you lose that, then, it's not the same. Notice on the price action, here's the low, there's the high. See how you're in the upper third? Okay, here's the midpoint. Okay, there's the midpoint. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. You're in the upper third. All right? Like I say, you hang on over this line. That's bullish territory all up there. All right? Everything looked good as long as you stay on top of that pink line there. All right? You may come back and touch it, and I wouldn't doubt it if they do. All right? Come back, touch it. But you want them to recover and, You know, not you don't want to see them start consolidating under prior consolidation. That would be that's not a good sign. All right? But as long as they hang out on top of that pink line, you're good. That's what I like. I like them in the upper third. You're welcome. All right, guys, that's it for me for today. All right, I'll see you guys all tomorrow, 8 o'clock. It's going to be Friday. And by the way, we got a 3-day weekend. I don't know if the market closes early tomorrow, but we do have a 3-day weekend coming in. It's going to be nice. I welcome it. I'm looking forward to that 3-day weekend. All right? See you guys all tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I'm sorry the market didn't cooperate. Just some sloppy, crappy day. Price action did not go anywhere. You can see we opened here, we closed here. We wound up in the same spot after wiggling around and dancing. Jump up, jump down, you know. And we're right back in the same spot we started from. Okay, so there we go.